Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Straight Out of BPS podcast with Rudy and Jamari. I am Rudy Looters alongside or to the screen with my brother, my boy, Jamari.
Jamari Jones.
Jamari Jones.
What's going on,
Uh,
everybody?
how you doing, Jamari?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I worked from home today, so that
Yeah,
was
like you left me. Like, we're not. We're doing
yeah,
this to the screen today.
yeah. So we gotta
There
show
must
some.
be a reason.
um, but I mean, it was a pretty good week. It's been a pretty good week.
Yeah. Um. Happy MLK Day week.
Yes.
You know.
MLK Day. That was great. Um, I saw a lot of people posting that they were, out and about, volunteering and stuff. So that was cool to see. What did you do?
We I guess I got a chance to volunteer with Volunteer Vibes.
Yeah,
I know we both were trying to go, but they only had one spot, and because of social distancing, the spots were limited.
yeah,
Yeah, so I represented us and went to volunteer with Volunteer Vibes. We put together some children books, and those books were pretty much like interesting. I think we were able to do 74 books we put together, and yeah, it was just
it was like four of you guys.
yeah, it was six of us
Oh,
total in
six.
the room. Six, no, yeah, six people in the room. Yeah, six people. Sorry, six people in the room. Um, yeah, yeah, it was a fun environment. Seeing the thing, there was a bunch of most of the people in there were educators.
Okay.
So yeah, shout out, check out Volunteer Vibes. They do a lot of things. They offer a lot of volunteer experience, especially for black folks.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it was a fun. So, uh, yeah, so we I did that. And then there was the thing about MLK. Around MLK, people try to find a quote that resonate for them.
Yeah.
Um,
I know we posted some.
I know we we posted something, and for us, when we were trying to figure out what quote resonated best for us in the mission we uh
Yeah.
trying to accomplish, is that one: the complete education give one not only the power of concentration, but worthy objective upon which to concentrate.
Hmm.
And um and I want to elaborate more about the education. When we say education, people only think about college, like
Right.
degree, and everything. We're talking like education and the most macro
Yeah.
level, because we understand it's not just um, college education. You don't just get your education through college.
Right.
Um, yeah, so it was a fun weekend for still MLK week. So day of service. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what pretty much MLK is all about. And I think what he stood for is, one, he was fighting for our equality, right? But
Um,
also, he kind of is the example of someone that
yeah.
educated,
Yeah.
but also cared about all types of education and all types of people and wanted equality for everyone, whether they were going to be a
Yeah.
pipe fitter going into construction or being let into the use the same bathrooms.
Yeah.
Wanted equality overall, and I think that speaks highly right now in our education system where, like, we're fighting for um equality in our education system and still
Yeah.
are to this day. But it just, I love that, we get to celebrate this man every year.
Yeah.
And so many more black folks in the past that need to be celebrated.
Yeah.
So not just to shine light on MLK, but I think he represents a plethora of black folks. um that we need to celebrate.
I'm glad you say that because every year I see the FBI celebrating celebrate Happy MLK Day. Y'all shout him.
Right.
Like, but also and we live in a like like for a long time we had to be subjective to what to assimilate to what culture, right?
Hmm.
So because they control the narrative for a long time, so the black people we celebrate the most are the black people that were even though like there was a time Martin Luther King was the most dangerous man or radical man on the FBI list,
Right.
but I think like you don't hear about Malcolm X, there's a bunch of other people that you don't. So sometimes if you based on history you can feel like, oh, there's just a couple of few people. No, there's a way more people, and we can dive deep further into those people in one of our segment. But yeah, it just
And I also think, there's something also to be said about that, and not to get us off topic, but like, MLK was the most peaceful.
true.
So, like you said, like Malcolm X, he was far radical because he wasn't
Yeah,
taking nothing.
yeah, yeah.
So, there's a reason why we don't have a Malcolm X Day. You know what I mean?
Why?
It
So,
would be crazy. Uh,
definitely important to check into history and
right,
our own history because they ain't gonna teach us that.
right.
Yeah. And it's also inauguration week,
Yeah,
bro. Yo, it was cold today. It was -45 today,
yeah.
bro. He gone.
He's gone. He's
He's
gone.
gone. And it's not like, Biden is in office, we're gonna hold him accountable.
Hmm.
But those behavior that Trump allowed, those rhetoric,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, we done with that. And one of the reasons why we started this podcast, it was a good time because as we talk often, we decided like we can no longer be silent and we can no longer be a number in the community. We need to be a member
right.
in the community.
Also, shout out to our black woman,
Woo!
Asian woman, our Latino woman. Like,
Oh,
shout out to our woman of color, man.
that's
This is huge. This is huge.
true.
I'm so proud to be, like to have someone like that representing us. And like you said, like this doesn't mean things are gonna be peachy, things are gonna go smooth,
Yeah.
but this is just a movement where like, okay, we are getting a little bit better.
A little bit better, a step toward a working direction.
Yeah,
Now, so sometimes when you're trying to find conflict resolution,
yeah.
both parties have to come in the room
Hmm.
to find a solution. But
Yeah,
when you're dealing with childlike, and I don't even want to compare him to child because I feel like kids would be way better than him. Like,
yeah,
but he's a sore loser. Like I
yeah,
remember when I used to watch him in what's the show again? I forgot. I don't even need to remember it. But he's just a sore loser. His whole candidacy, like the domestic terrorists who attacked the Capitol. Let's
yeah.
call them by what they are. He incited that. So I'm just happy it's gone,
Hmm.
and we can now. That doesn't mean that Biden's in office. We're gonna be like, oh, Biden's no, like Biden's gonna be held accountable. Like black people, especially black women,
Yeah,
put him in the office.
yeah.
Now, like I'm waiting for the coupon code for my loans.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I,
That
I think that is, I know some of the policy that he is putting in place, I think is very good, and I hope that um our vice president will hold him to that.
definitely. I think she will.
So,
She will. She will. And to transition to what we're talking about today. So one of those his executive order would be like he's trying to make sure we get everyone get vaccinated. I know everyone have different opinion
Mm-hmm.
on the vaccine. Like there's two type of vaccine out there.
Yeah.
Everyone have their different opinion. I would say myself, I was more hesitant in the beginning, and that's due to like history and what Black people have been through
Yeah.
um, with vaccine. But I've been doing my research, and I'm more like as I do my research, I'm finding out more, and I'm trying to decide. I know right now, I think it's Moderna. I'm definitely not a
Not
fan
taking
of that one,
that.
but I may take the definitely thinking about the other one. So so this is a part two of our conversation of the last week episode. By the way, Jamari, we gotta thanks the viewers, the listeners.
Yes,
Uh,
thank you,
yeah,
man.
thank you. We
All of y'all.
appreciate I appreciate the support. Yeah,
Yeah, so also just to drop, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Straight Out of BPS Pod. Also, our Instagram, Straight Out of BPS Pod. Make sure you go and follow that page. On Twitter, straight no, it's SOBPS podcast on Twitter, and then follow us on Facebook, or like us on Facebook, comment Straight Out of BPS. You can also email us.
yeah,
Make sure you email us stories. Make sure you email us any questions you have. Straight Out of BPS pod at gmail.com. So thank you for all the support. We love y'all. We're gonna keep, you know, putting out dope content. We got some big plans for this. So thank you for the
yeah.
support.
Thank you, thank you. So yeah, this is a part two conversation with
Yep.
our segment on surviving the pandemic and correlation with the one self and the education system.
Yep.
And before we dive into that, I forgot we have some announcement. BPS have a plan for bringing students back to school, right?
Yes, they do. So March 1st, we're gonna have hip students come back. And if you don't know what hip students are, it's high priority students. Um, so they are coming back February 1st. So parents are going to have the opportunity to choose whether they want their child to come back 4 days a week. And that's for students that, have need a little extra help. Or some students might have need can choose between hybrid, like coming Monday and Tuesday, or Thursday and Friday. Wednesday, no one's in the building. Supposed to be a deep cleaning day. And then we have March 1st, which grade K0 to third grade will be coming back. And then March 15th, fourth through eighth graders. And then um, the week of March 29th is going to be ninth through 12th graders. And if anybody would like to know more about this information, it is on the BPS website. So you can always go there and look for the information there. But we are more than happy to answer any questions. So make sure you shoot us an email if you have further questions about the rollback date, and we can share that with you.
All right, thank you, Jamar. So there's a reason why we're not in person today.
Yes.
Um, and we have some special guests, and we're gonna have some special guests coming on throughout this podcast. We feel as we started, we said one, we want to amplify voices. We want to hear from you in the community. That's why we asked you to email us to reach out to us, so we can have those conversation. Um, but we felt it was important as we discuss this segment that we bring in some voices. And the first voice we're gonna have with us today is a student voice. She is a current college student. But last year she ended her senior year virtual.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna have a conversation with her on how she's surviving the pandemic and what has the pandemic exposed for her in our education system, as well as other questions. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our next guest.
My former student, Jocelyn Sammy.
What's
What's up,
up?
Jocelyn?
What's up, Justin? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Nice
Good.
to see
Thank you for
you, baby.
coming. Jamari is excited. Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
Tell
Thank you for
us,
joining us.
yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What school you went to, like who you are.
Okay, so I graduated from high school from Tech Boston Academy, and now I am a freshman at Suffolk University. I was born in Boston, raised in Boston. So,
Yeah, our boy Rudy, he went to Suffolk as well. So,
mm-hmm.
um, so I know I had you as a senior, and it was not traditional at all.
No.
Not traditional. I can't say that you guys were like terrific through it, but it was a challenge for y'all. But in the end, y'all did make it. We lost one of our great leaders, Mr. Love, during that year. That was tough.
Mhm.
And I just felt like you guys banded together really well. But I could not, being y'all age and going through this right now. So it was tough.
It was. It still is.
Yeah, it still is. So let's hop into these questions. I can ask the first one. Um, how are you surviving the pandemic right now?
Honestly, I'm at this point, I'm just trying to be careful. Like,
Yeah.
as like some people already know, kind of like I already had COVID and the worst experience ever.
Mhm.
And just working with kids, I work with like younger BPS students, first and second graders. And when I had it, I just thought, oh, like, what if I went to work that day?
Mhm.
Mind you, I had no symptoms in the beginning, had no symptoms. And then like 11:30 at night, that's when I lost my taste and smell. I could have went to work that day. And I just keep thinking about it like, oh my God, I could have gave one of those kids COVID.
Mhm.
And then they could have gave it to their parents or their grandparents or their guardians, whoever watches them.
Mhm.
And that was one thing I just felt like terrible about. Even though like everyone's safe there, it was just you never know.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much just like everything I think about. Like you just never know what's gonna happen. And even during this pandemic, you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
These
did you? Sorry. Did you not? So you went. So until you lost your sense of taste and smell, you didn't know nothing. You didn't feel nothing. No other symptom. No test. It was like, did you try to eat some food and like, oh, I can't taste that food?
yeah, so like I got tested that day.
Okay.
Mind you, like I felt normal. I was like, I'm just gonna get tested so that I'm cleared because I got tested twice before going back to work, and the first one was negative. So then I waited a week, like just to see, and then the second test came back positive.
Mhm.
I was like, see, what if I went back to work because the first
Yeah.
test was negative?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's scary.
It was a false.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that is scary. But like you thinking about like what if speak to the kind of person that you are because you were doing your best to be careful.
Mhm.
And had you gone to work that day, you might expose more people and like people don't think about that like 'cause especially if there's a lot of I understand we being not locked down but like a little bit isolated
Yeah.
socially and people are tired of that
Right.
and especially like and I know at the beginning there was a lot of emphasis on the youth who don't care because it's not gonna affect them. But you also understand that you work with little kids who also have older parents. It could have been detriment. That's really thoughtful of you to think that way. Um, yeah. Um, so I think in the beginning you said it's still kind of tough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how is it now from compared to your uh, high school now that you're in college as a freshman? Is there a difference? Has it gotten better? Is there like
I want to say like starting in the pandemic, I was a senior, so I obviously was old enough to understand the terms of COVID and what that meant and what it could look like. And it was hard like just adjusting to like the online learning, but I just knew I had to get in the right mindset to it because I just didn't want to like I didn't want to fail senior year.
okay?
And typically like that happens. Like I'm not gonna lie, online school is tough. I was doing schoolwork from the morning to like 8 p.m. at night.
Mm,
And it was a consistent thing because in the beginning BPS didn't set a schedule. It was just they're posting assignments, you do the assignment by the due date.
mm,
And it was really hard because I went from seeing my teachers every day from
mm,
A to what F block and then not seeing them at all.
yeah.
So it was like, and me, I'm the type of person like I like to have like that connection. I want to have a relationship with my teacher if you're gonna teach me.
Yeah,
And it's more than that. It's more than like the knowledge that they're giving you, but who you're learning that from, that speaks like larger than what they're teaching you now in school.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much like I feel like that's where I just learned who I was pretty much from my teachers and like Jones and like everyone else that I met, Mr. Love, Miss Fernaza.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than that. But now like looking back, like now I'm a freshman in college. I am grateful for the fact that I did have like obviously like teachers and mentors that are strong enough to like make sure I was okay and make sure that I was strong enough to enter into this pandemic knowing that things are going to change and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to get that college experience that I've been dreaming about like oh my god since ninth grade.
Yeah.
So it's like just having the right mindset pretty much just held it down for me. I've seen a lot of my friends like not even go to college. Went to college, they dropped out
Yeah.
because of a pandemic.
Yeah.
the pandemic.
And
Yeah.
it's like you just don't know anymore.
Right.
So
No, those are all valid points. And I think that, you know, sometimes people don't really acknowledge how tough it is.
yeah,
And like I think we're gonna see it in the data when we look back that there was a big chunk of students that dropped out during the pandemic more than usual because we always have some
yeah,
students that may drop out, but I think not having that what you just said, the traditional college experience
mm-hmm.
really sets some kids back. And you know, some kids may have had to work and support family instead of going to school. And our, as you know, all of our students face those things already. You were working,
Yeah,
Yeah,
trying to help out. And I know that because we have a personal relationship, but like I just always admire how hard you worked
thank
and
you.
your grit. And definitely like all those things that you are saying. I feel that people really, really need to hear for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
On the kids, like you touch up on the point of the kids who had to work because if you think about it, parents are losing jobs
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
and kids are essential worker, so they become dependable of that income,
Hmm.
trying to get as many hours as possible to support their family. Yeah, those are definitely um, challenges that added challenges that student had to face. And you spoke a little bit about your peers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of them like um, either didn't go to college when they're planning where to go to college, or couldn't maintain the online classes. Like, can you or like talk a little bit more about some of the experience, the struggle they are facing?
Yeah, so pretty much I kind of just like during the like the end of the senior year pretty much I kind of just took a role on just being that support student to my friends and like other seniors, and I like started the Instagram just to like kind of connect with other seniors in a way, like if they just didn't want to know like, oh, they were talking to me, like just like a safe space where they can just like honestly just tell me anything, like college or like financial aid or anything, because I've been learning all that stuff since ninth grade. And it was just hard like hearing like a lot of people's like stories, because I feel like education, like furthering your education is a good thing. Obviously it's not meant for everyone, and there's other like roads you can take, and I support that like 100%. Whatever road you want to take, like obviously TBA has your back. Like that's just everything, like the message that we always got. But it was just so heartbreaking knowing, like even Jones know, like we spent so much time in the learning commons, seniors, after school, before school, during lunch, like everyone was in there trying to do something. And that room was always packed. Like it really was always packed. And like we put in so much work, stayed after school after having AP classes, tests, and everything like that, sports. And to go from the like entering into the pandemic after graduating, and then that's when I started noticing my friends were like, I don't think I can do school online,
Mhm.
or like I just need to work. And I understand that, but then I was trying hard to just make them see like the bigger picture, like this pandemic isn't going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I know now it seems tough, but like I just try not to think so hard on this pandemic, because that will bring you down like 1,000%.
Yeah.
And I told all my friends like you're gonna be okay. And I know like financially like, you just want to work, and like you're trying to get the hours you can and stuff like that. But honestly, just I feel like being a black person in America, you need to have an education.
On to the next question. Um, so as a student, what are your thoughts on how BPS um handled the pandemic first when it happened with like you guys in general?
Okay. I want to say it was kind of just like nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
Like nobody knew anything. I remember like the last day I seen Jones, like the class I had before, we were just eating ice cream in the
Yeah.
class.
Legit. We were eating
And
ice.
we were watching the news. Like, it was like, okay, is Marty gonna announce that like we're never coming back to school,
Yeah.
or like what? So then I remember like that day I was like, everyone's leaving school. Everyone's thinking this COVID's coming right into Tech Boston. Like, oh, everyone needs to leave. And I just remember like Jones, like everyone was leaving. I was like, Jones, I'll see you later.
So
Yeah.
did you feel that you had everything you needed as far as like supplies or like everything like that?
I mean, yeah, like I kind like senior year was just kind of like like entered into, we was kind of like done with term 3,
Mhm.
so it was kind of like pretty much work on your senior portfolio. And like the senior portfolio is just something like seniors like present at the end of each year, like in order to graduate.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much that, and then wrapping up our classes. I had everything I needed, like my laptop, and I had like just like the connections with my teacher. Like if I needed anything, I know like I can text them or I can email them,
Yeah.
or I can set up a Zoom.
Yeah.
But I I feel like I needed everything, and I know like Tech Boston, like they really worked hard to make sure every student did get a laptop if they needed one, or if they needed any other supplies. And um they did the best that they could.
Yeah.
And for that, like under that, like the terms that we were in, you just have to be grateful for that, you
Yeah.
know. And like I can't speak about other schools, but um just how quick and like efficient that we all got the laptops, like going into school that one day just to get whatever you needed. Like
Yeah.
like probably other schools did that, but then you know just the way we did it, and then just like returning the laptops, I feel like it was pretty like efficient enough to make sure that students did get their work done.
Yeah. I, I think that's like one of the things I was most grateful for too, is that how quickly our school kind of responded
Right.
to, like, oh, students need laptops, we're going online learning.
Right.
Some people needed hotspots, we got them hotspots.
Yep.
Okay.
So that was, I think that was pretty good. I think everyone was, like you said, was in limbo, like
Mm-hmm.
what the heck is going on, but like
Don't know a dang thing. Like we was just like, okay, we're gonna be out of school,
yeah.
but for how long? Like I remember I was like, okay, like I took a picture on Snapchat. I was like day one of this online learning thing. And I was like, okay, I'll see you guys in 6 weeks. Okay, 6 weeks passed and I'm still home. I was like, I want to see Mr. Love. I want to see Ms. Vernaza. Like, I want to see my teachers.
Yeah.
I want to be home. But
Yeah.
obviously, like, it is what it is.
Hmm.
But it just sucks. Like,
Earlier you mentioned that your classmate, because they weren't doing well in online learning in high school, they couldn't see themselves doing it in college.
yep.
So if high school should be as like high school is supposed to prep you into your post-secondary journey, and if whatever your post-secondary journey is,
Mhm.
and if it's college, so I'm wondering, like, how much does, like, how the online learning was handled in the beginning, um and like, because right now you're online,
Mhm.
you're doing virtual learning, and because they couldn't see themselves succeed, like, so I'm wondering how much, if in the beginning it was properly handled and people, we were in such in a limbo, as you said, it would have like changed their pathway into potentially, not that, like, like, and you said it like, um whatever, everyone can choose whatever path they want, like,
Mhm.
a college education is not the only education. There's education, there's the college education,
Right.
but their plan was to go to college, but that that experience didn't allow them to pursue that, because they weren't, you don't know, they weren't thinking of how long they were gonna be in
Mhm.
online learning for. um I'm just thinking of how much, if that was properly handled in the beginning, it would have made a difference in them being in their original plan right now.
I want to say like in the beginning, it was kind of like, yeah, like doing homework for a long period of time. Like no one wants to do homework from morning till night. And I think that's what kind of scared people. Like even me, I was just like kind of getting overwhelmed because like I do like doing schoolwork. Like I love learning, but once it like you just at that point you was just like, okay, I need to finish this to finish that. Like it wasn't even like, okay, what am I learning? Or like, okay, I know I have to read this to answer this question. Let me just find like the keywords to that question. Like that's kind of what it was like, but I feel like a lot of my other friends, like, they just thought college was gonna be like that.
Mm,
And I'm honestly like, I was shocked the way like my first semester went like the best that it really could be. Like, I
Mm.
didn't really have any struggles, kind of, just like obviously not meeting new people like that. Like, I probably have two friends, but like whatever. I did good, I got good grades. And it was just like a shift. Like, okay, we went from like doing high school work and like I had Zoom with two of my teachers. And that was like towards the end of the year, kind of like I had AP Chem. We zoomed like obviously until the AP was over. And then my other class, like we just zoomed like even if we needed like support or just needed a place to vent. And I feel like that was like that was really like needed because it's a lot like being in high school and then like you're thinking like where am I going to spend the next 4 years,
Mm.
and what conditions am I going to spend the next 4 years. And I feel like that's what like freaked out a lot of people. And I understand like who wants to pay thousands of dollars
yeah.
just to be on a computer? You can be at home.
Yeah.
And like me, like I got the full ride to Suffolk, so like obviously
all right, girl.
I don't know. It's just like I try to understand where they're coming from, and I do understand because I know I wouldn't want to spend thousands of dollars if I'm just being
Yeah,
home. Like
Yeah.
that's not
yeah,
fair.
yeah. I mean, you said it, financial aid was a big decision on where you landed,
Yeah.
and you
Mhm.
understood that if Suffolk didn't come out and give you that full scholarship, you wouldn't be at Suffolk today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And and earlier we touched base on the student who are working a lot despite the pandemic because of their parents or their income. So
Mhm.
so there's a need. So when you're surviving, you cannot think about the future. You can only think about
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
And most of our students are surviving. And when you are surviving, there's a need to get out immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
And college, for most of our students, are
Yeah.
the gateway to get out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And because of that, they tend to make financially unfit decision that gonna put them in more limbo down the line, and further that keep them away from generational wealth. I
Mhm.
tell a student like college is not the goal, generational wealth is the goal, and the more debt you have is gonna prevent you. The debt to income ratio is gonna bite you uh, in the ass, and then prevent you from becoming a homeowner, which is one of the fastest way to build
Mhm.
generational wealth.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy we're having this conversation. And you work with students already,
Yeah.
and you are being an example for your peers and supporting them, helping them analyze situation and figure out what's best for them. So I thank you for what you're doing and what you did, and continue. We are so proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Super proud.
super
Oh, thank
proud.
you.
Once a bear, always a bear. Remember that.
I know.
No, she's a ram now. Once a ram, always a
No,
ram.
no, 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 no.
No, she's a ram. Yo, no, yo, ain't nobody gonna talk about Tech Boston. They gonna talk about Suffolk. You
No,
know,
man.
that's just
We're
yo.
gonna talk. Tech is where it started.
It is. It is.
You may
So,
finish at Suffolk, but
Suffolk
Tech
is where you
is
create your legacy.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank
talking to
you
me.
so much for joining us, Jocelyn Sammy, our student perspective on the Straight Out of BPS podcast today. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, everyone, that was our student perspective. Yeah, Jocelyn Sammy. And
Yeah, she's an incredible, incredible student. I was so lucky to have her as a student, man. It
Um,
was great.
I can see why. I can see why she's gonna do great things. So that was a student perspective. Up next, we have another perspective coming up to join our conversation on surviving the pandemic, and we have a social worker, right, Jamari?
Yes, social worker, Randy, super, super dope, doing amazing work in BPS.
All right. All right, so joining us is Randy, who is a social
Randy,
worker in BPS. Welcome, Randy.
I
welcome.
am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So we focus in our segment on surviving the pandemic. So we're gonna go straight for how you surviving the pandemic.
So, currently, I'm surviving by just maintaining a consistent routine for myself,
Mm,
um, trying to balance working at home and also living at home and just creating some sense of normalcy and balance. So,
Mm,
creating opportunities to move throughout the day. So, not sitting and on Zoom for hours on end, making sure I'm in consistent communication with friends and family. And yeah, doing things like this is really hard
yeah,
because, it's your home. You want to live here. You
mm.
yeah,
don't necessarily always want to work. So just
yeah.
making sure it's necessary to like get outside, go for a walk, call people, things like that.
That's
Yeah,
that's key. Um, it's you mentioned a consistency, and that's
mm,
a key word. And I think, but it's a struggle being consistent.
yeah.
Like, it's do you feel like you're consistent most of the time, sometime, all the time?
Listen, like I try to tell my kids is that even if you fall off for a week or 2 weeks, you can always go back to it.
Yeah.
So I have my days where I'm not consistent all the time, but my aim is to become more disciplined so I can become consistent,
Mhm.
because I know that the things that I'm trying to incorporate in my life is so that I can like have a sense of well-being, like things that help me thrive in my
Yeah.
everyday environment, things that help me show up for the students and teachers that I'm going to work with every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that that's something to be noted. Like one of the things that you said is establishing normacy. Like I think that is so hard to do, especially right now. And I think that is something students are battling right now as well. Is
mhm,
that establishing like what is normal right now because things are so unnormal. And
exactly.
like Rudy was saying, is like being consistent with things, or I don't think our students know how to get through this pandemic unscathed. Like, maybe I need to go for a walk, or go see a friend but socially distant,
hmm
or something like that. So I think that's something to be noted. Definitely, definitely good.
Yeah.
And the thing about it as educators, like, we are figuring out, usually we have to, we figured out this before and then we relate it to them in a way they can understand.
Yeah.
Now we're figuring out as we helping them. So which is kind of tricky because we are impacted by this pandemic, and so you need to be make sure you take care of your sense of self before, so you can be able to help others. Um, did the pandemic expose anything for you in our education system?
I think it did. I think that everything that, you know, our education system is now doing, it could have been done in the past, and I think we've been trying to make it happen, but our answer was always, oh, there's not enough money to do that. We don't have the funds to do that. There's not enough resources.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I know for a lot of time teachers were trying to raise money to get Chromebooks, and things like that, to get new Chromebooks for our kids, because oftentimes the Chromebooks that we have are not working. And then when the pandemic hit, every student received a new Chromebook. You know, also, like, we had access to these materials before, so
Yeah.
why are we just getting it now? And even with our families all getting free meals every week, getting a refill on their PEBT cards every week, like, where were these resources before? Because we know that these are the families that are still struggling, especially additionally because of the pandemic. You
Yeah.
know, that even the power to get rid of the SATs that
Mhm.
do not accurately reflect our students' abilities.
We tell that for the people in the back because they need to hear that. The
Right.
more people say it, the more it's gonna catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's true. Like, you know, certain people have access to get tutors for the SATs, right?
Yeah.
But their lives depend on if they're going to get into a good college or
Yeah.
not. These do not reflect our students' abilities whatsoever.
Yeah.
It reflects that you could score a high grade on a test. That's what it reflects, but not their intellectual abilities
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
I,
so even oh, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, like, you're totally right. Keep going, please.
Yeah.
Even with the organizations now that we're partnering with, for example, Comcast, and partnering with organizations to help families who are experiencing homelessness. Like, now BPS has helped over 400 families with
Mm.
homelessness, and like, that is amazing and it's great. But where was this before?
Yeah.
That's my only thing. Like, where was this before? So I think ultimately it exposed that we could have been doing more for our students, and it didn't take a pandemic to hit for us to get everything we need for our families.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
think yeah. Oh,
oh well, I two things. One is that in the last episode we touched on a lot of this.
yeah.
So, like, my hope is after the pandemic, like, we do not regress when we go
Yeah.
back doing the old things, but continue on this path where we continue to help families and everything like that. Because believe it or not, for people that are listening, the school is the hub because we spend so much time with kids that, you know, the first people they go to or the families go to is the school.
Yeah.
Yes,
So that is something that is concerning for me, and I hope that, you know, we don't regress back. And two is that it makes me think about how messed up the system is. Like, you're withholding
Yeah.
resources
yeah,
from the people, from the community that you're supposed to be serving.
yeah,
Right.
It's wild to me that, like, these people are paying taxes, these people are
Mhm.
in, like, the community are struggling, and you're like, nah, you know, we ain't gonna spend that extra money to help these kids. That's messed up, yo.
it is messed up.
It's just crazy. We had these funds all this time, and now, you know, pandemic hit, you know, just spending money like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I think that brings us to the budget cuts happening almost every year. It's
Hmm.
like
Mm.
you're making those budget cuts, knowing that you're able to make those things happen. And I'm just interested to see how budget hearings are gonna be in the future. If
Hmm.
there's gonna be, like you said, Jamar, are they gonna keep the same energy? Are those buildings gonna be renovated and be ventilated? Because believe it or not, private school didn't have that problem. They did not have the ventilation problem. I know private school student were still going in because they have um, they have ventilation and they're able to social distance. And also like
Mhm.
putting our teachers in situation like that is I do feel like there's a lack of trust between the system and the teachers in terms of like, we don't want you to stay at home, we want you in the building. And I don't feel like the system need to earn their trust. I just think like, the teachers, staff, admin have done enough to be creative to earn the right, like, and I do understand there's some student needs to be in person, some student can stay at home, but it's them trying to fit everyone under one
Yeah.
system that are creating problem. Yeah, you touching on a bunch of bullet after bullet. Thank you for sharing that. We're also wondering, like, as a sister worker, are there like, is there like, can you give us a top three challenge that students are facing right now, and if there's any resources that you may need to support them with those challenge?
Yeah. So I definitely think relationships
Mm,
and is a really hard challenge. Specifically for me, I work with students who on their IEP and accommodation is like making sure they build these relationships and you know improve their social skills,
yeah,
right? Because that's a lifelong skill. And it's
yeah,
really hard to deliver on that when the kids are not in the same space. Families are going through different circumstances, and it's hard to make a new relationship through a computer.
yeah.
Especially this is my first year at the school I'm at.
Okay.
And so even me building relationships with my students when, you come on and their cameras are off, or you have to get in touch with their parent who might be working in order to reach the student. Like there's a variety of challenges that just make making relationships and sustaining relationships really challenging right now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I would also say the students' motivation is
Yeah.
definitely a
Yeah,
top challenge. You
definitely.
know, like not everyone has a space where they can just make a separate office for
Yeah.
their schoolwork to be done. And, being right next to your bed and being children, kids are going to be kids and they're going to want to sleep in, and there's not a lot of things that teachers can do about that, if they don't have the camera off. It's really taking a partnership with the families to help get this done, but the families are under a lot of stress themselves. So I've definitely seen that come up. And I think another challenge is just consistency and routines and students like being prepared for next steps when they can come to school or
Yeah.
when can they not come to school. And also like just the state that the world is currently in, like their safety is now a topic of conversation. Like, do I feel safe in my community? Do I feel safe in school? Do I feel safe if I want to exercise? my right to advocate for myself, right?
Right.
Everything is just, I feel like everything in the world is just questioned right now. And really, like I said earlier, getting back to that stage of normalcy, like, it's something that they really need and are struggling with.
Um, do you think student will be able to transition back, um, or like without any, because they did the uh last year online. They did, so that's like a full year online.
Mhm.
So like, do you think they'll be able to come back when the COVID is done? We're able to be in person. Um, do you feel like it's impacting their education? Like they, because some people may say they're not getting the full exposure or the
Mhm.
full experience. Um, especially those students who like they're kind of behind. How is
Mhm.
that gonna affect them long term?
I think that students are I think students are very resilient. I think they're very looking forward to coming back to school. They're looking forward to building these relationships. And what we know about the brain is that when you practice something often enough, your brain is like an elastic and you start to understand the material that you may have not gotten when you were in virtual learning.
Mm,
So I think students are going to be able to bounce back. I think it's going to take structured and individualized interventions to
mhm,
make that happen.
mm,
And if I think a lot of students are what we haven't seen before is like some students ahead of the others, but I think right now a lot of students are in the same place where they're just struggling with online learning and they're
yeah,
struggling with the material because it's being taught through a computer and you don't necessarily have to engage. The teacher can't tap you on the shoulder, you know
yeah,
what I mean, to get your attention. So I think students are going to bounce back. I think we are going to see gaps in what they've been learning,
Yeah.
but I think ultimately they will get there.
Yeah. I think that, for like being a guidance counselor, we always are tracking attendance and everything. I
Hmm.
think our attendance is going to be at 100%.
I
that's
agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
Considering
they're coming
every-
in.
yeah,
yeah. So I think that the thing I I'm worried about is that the learning gaps, especially for students that have IEPs,
Hmm.
um, or that are special ed, because it's so hard for them to learn at home. Sometimes there are some students that have IEPs that are thriving
Hmm.
yeah,
in this, but there are some that need that special like teaching that are not in that I feel are getting left behind, but there's only so much like the parent can do and we can do over a screen, and that is just not working.
Yeah.
um but I think I do have faith that once the student is in school, like in person, those gaps will be filled as best as they can, like you said, Randy.
Hmm.
Um, because I've seen it done before. Um, it's just gonna take a little bit of work and intervention, like you said.
yeah. Um, yeah, thank you for coming, Randy. That's it.
No
We're
problem.
excited to have your perspective during this conversation. Yeah,
No, I'm really excited to be here, and I think what y'all are talking about is so important. You know, and coming straight from the source, which
Yeah,
is which is different.
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
excited to be a part of this, and I'm excited to your future conversations, so I can tune in.
yeah.
yeah,
Thank you. And like, I mean, you're a social worker. I feel like social worker can be tapped in on everything. So
yeah,
Listen, bring me back. I'll
thank
be
you,
here.
thank
yeah,
I'll be
you.
there.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, that was Randy. Like,
that was great, man.
great.
It was great to hear her experience and her feedback.
Mhm.
I think voices like that are so important to for everyone to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And we understand that our voices are not the only one. And like and we committed to amplify voices and bring people to talk about their experience. We
Mhm.
had a student, we had a social worker. Up next, we're gonna have a BPS parent.
Yes.
So yeah. Without further ado, we have the Christina experience in the house. How you doing?
Hi, hello everybody.
Hello, hello.
Nice
Thank
seeing
you
you
for coming.
guys. Oh, you're welcome. I'm excited.
Thank you, thank you. So we discussing the our segment on surviving the pandemic from your perspective as a BPS parent. But before we dive in, we just want to how you surviving the pandemic.
I mean, honestly, I think it's more like a day by day type of thing where I think at first I was kind of like you just don't know. It's something so new, like we never experienced this before. So it was just like,
Mhm.
how long was this supposed to stay? Like how long we were supposed to stay home? Then we're just not sure. I'm like, and then it became like almost a year. Like next month, I mean, in March, it'll be almost a year.
Yeah,
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Right.
So I think right now it's just being thankful. I think I'm thankful, I'm able to still, buy what I need, still be able to pay my bills, and and still working. I think you just have to be thankful.
yeah. Um, yeah, definitely thankful. I know Jamari and I also feel the same way on being thankful of being employed because we're still
Yeah.
lucky, fortunate to be in this moment. But you said working. I just wanted to make sure I give you a shout out because we're a black owned podcast and we gotta shout out some. So Christina is a black business owner. And
Dope.
Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, I appreciate it. So first of all, I'm so happy that you guys created this platform because I think the conversation is definitely much needed in Boston. We do have a great educational system in Massachusetts,
mm,
but Boston, we definitely need to address certain things. And I think you guys are getting the conversation started out there. And I think it's needed. We need to bring everybody into the conversation,
Mhm.
and I think we need to educate people as well. So thank you for creating this platform.
yeah,
And yes, I am Black owner. I started recently. When did I start? I mean, I was kind of like dabbling in it. But like when I literally got an LLC and everything, that was like this summer, the end of the summer.
Wow.
So yeah, and I started just so I have a makeup servicing company,
Okay.
and I'm big on like making things fun. So
yeah,
kind of like teaching people how to do things, but make it a fun way. I know you guys can relate to that, where you teach others like
yeah,
how to do something, but you want to be stimulating, it has
yeah,
to be engaging. And
yeah,
that's the same way for me, where with makeup, I'm teaching others like how to get their makeup done, because a lot of people are buying so many products and they don't know how to use it.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
So
true.
I do it in a fun way, and also offer like makeup boxes where if you don't know what to get, like you're like, I don't know where to start. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah.
right. So
I
I'm
think that's something that's really cool, especially for when we're working with students because they have that passion of
Hmm.
like some young women or even some young men want to go into the makeup industry or
Yeah.
want to be a makeup artist but don't know how to get there or who to connect with. I think it's very important that we have people like you that are starting their own businesses that can relate to our young people or even give them opportunities. So like kudos to you. And like it's definitely encouraging to hear.
yeah,
Thank you, thank you. And I know a lot of people think that's it's a saturated market where it's like there's so many makeup artists, and it's like, well, how am I going to stand out? And
yeah,
it's all about like, and those are the things that we teach the kids. It's like being unique, and it's just like just making sure that you're able to tell others like how you're so different.
Mhm.
And for me, it was just finding a different way to like stand out. So just like having making it like a makeup party where I have makeup parties, and just being different with it. It's still showing like who I am, and
yeah,
that will really resonate with people.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I think one thing that stands out with me with you is just like as a post-secondary advisor, I remember in the past, if a student, like, or like me being a student, if a student came uh, and said they wanted to be a makeup artist, there wasn't a lot of emphasis, a lot of support for that student. So
Hmm.
that dream died. Like, it's like, oh, this is a hobby. You don't want to do
Yeah.
mistakes that. So like, you a college educated, you have a master.
Yes, I do.
Uh,
I do have a master's in business.
yeah.
So
So and then you have your own business. So this is so powerful. So
Yeah.
come to you. Um,
thank you, thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of times we might look down upon certain trades, like,
yeah,
oh no, this is not something that's not a career, right?
yeah,
That's like something I can do. But it's like whatever you really enjoy and you can turn that into like it's a passion and you turn that into a profession. That's not for us to look down upon, but kind of like help people celebrate them.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the pandemic situation.
Yeah.
So, did the pandemic expose anything for you in our education system?
I think it kind of showed me that we're a little bit behind in the sense of like when it comes to we tell the kids all the time like you need to learn those 21st century skills, right? Just so you know you are, because when you get out there in the market, right, you're looking for a job, you're going to need those skills. But then it felt like as a school, like when it's like the school itself, like we were not ready to teach them that way. Like when it came to like now they have to be home, and and it just felt like, oh my god, what are we going to do? Like, oh my god, like how are we going to teach them do
Yeah,
this? It just felt like kind of like, or like and I can understand, especially during a pandemic where there's so many uncertain things happening already, where it can feel like I don't know where to start, right?
yeah,
But it just felt like we were not ready, because I know we pushed out a lot on kids like you need to learn those skills and we want you prepared, but it just felt like we were not prepared as well.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think also there's a need of um, what do you call trade school
Hmm.
because um and because like the days of pushing everyone to college are over. Like we know everyone have different plans, different trajectory. Not one is better than the other. It's just
Yes.
trajectory. We're talking about post-secondary success, and those students need to have the same level of support regardless of their decision. So
Yeah.
not being ready, you right, you Kiana, is like we promote it, but we don't uh we're not taking any action to make it.
Yeah.
And you were a parent in BPS.
Hmm.
Right, like what are your thoughts? Like so when BPS had some back and forth when they started, when the pandemic started, how they handled it from the beginning to now? How do you feel like they handled it?
um I think the communication wise, I felt that it was pretty open. I would say where, we have to delay, like when they had to delay school and kind of like, we need to think a bit more. I think there was some transparency, I would say, to some part where I'm like, or the school will host some meetings with parents where they will kind of tell you like this is where we at with like the planning part. This is what we might do, things like that. So I would say the communication was there was communication.
Okay.
In regards to like when my daughter started school, and then I was like, it felt a bit confusing because it felt like all this preparation was just like it was kind of chaotic, where it's like where she's supposed to go, what happened to this link, where's there, like it was just like, especially for her starting middle school, that's like this new transition,
Yeah.
and she has more teachers now.
Yeah.
um it was a bit everywhere at first, to be honest. I was just like, oh my god, like where's she supposed to be now? What happened to this link? It's another link, it's this link, it's this link. It was just, it felt like the system itself was kind of like they were kind of like getting it along,
Yeah.
like they were going along with it. So that was a little bit frustrating, I would say. um yeah, because I could see the frustration for her. Like she would
Yeah,
just get frustrated,
I
and I
mean,
felt like we needed more support around that, especially in sixth grade. You need more support.
yeah, yeah. If you get frustrated, I can imagine for her being frustrated. Yeah. So yeah, in the beginning, and we talk about that a little bit. Like it was a limbo trying to figure out um what link with Zoom. Like it felt like every week there was a different
Yeah,
and then you had to change like and I understand everyone is changing and then everyone is facing,
Mm-hmm.
but like and you you hit right on point at the beginning, like you preach 21st century skill, but you're not creating opportunity for 21st.
yeah. Because it seemed even that like and not to put down anybody, but it seems like even the teachers needed training on like how to like how do I do this Zoom? Like how do I use this technology?
Yeah, that's that
And
Zoom.
it seemed like they needed training as well
Yeah.
Yeah,
along, like, well, I don't know how to do this.
yeah,
So if there was that professional development for them where in that regard, I don't know.
yeah,
Right. And I can be the first one to admit, because I'm a counselor in the school,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to like work with a student and troubleshoot them why they can't get into the Zoom class. I'm like, I'm not a Zoom technician. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like trying to troubleshoot along with the student to figure this out. But it is unfair that we are asking parents to work from home, right? But also to help their child figure out this technology issues where, they wouldn't have this if they were in school.
yeah,
Um,
Hmm.
so I think there has to be a little bit of sympathy with the school as well, about what's going on. But that's a very good point.
yeah. Do you think your daughter received the necessary support to succeed through this pandemic?
I think at first it felt like I would say it could have been better at first.
Yeah.
Um, but I would give the school that she goes to, they do have like office hours
Okay.
where the students are able to like meet with the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely been very helpful. As well as I know they also like partner up with like an organization as well that help with like homework and things like that. So I thought that was a great way where if you can offer it, partner up with a community partner. So
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many resources out there when you
Yeah.
think about it, but are we using those resources
Yeah.
like to help the students? So
Yeah.
I think that's like they did a good job like doing that. But yeah, I mean, I think at first just because it felt like it was unstructured a bit more. So I was like, oh, well, like I felt like I had to help a lot more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually it felt that they got their pattern, their routine kind of going, where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, now she has more support. They hired also more staff.
Okay.
So they did hire like IEP, she's like an IEP specialist, things like that.
Okay.
She's part time, which I didn't understand like why they have like part time because especially if you have a student that have an IEP,
Yeah.
like having a part time staff to me that doesn't make sense when they were receiving services full time
Mm-hmm.
before. So it's like what happened, like why has it been decreased to part time to just a part time staff?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question.
Questions that need answers,
That need answers.
for real.
Earlier, Jamari and I were talking about like all those resources that um we supposedly didn't have, but all of a sudden we are getting because of the pandemic, and we hope that is gonna continue
Yeah.
in the future. Now I'm thinking like, okay, now you have a part-time specialist ed. So like once the pandemic is over, like what's gonna happen? Are those support gonna continue, or is that specialist gonna be full time? And why? What? Good question. Why is it not full time and part time? So we having this conversation. We need answers. So I couldn't imagine as a parent how like handling those technical difficulty when you
Hmm.
probably had to work.
Yeah.
needing to do, like,
And
and
the kids have Zoom fatigue, you know? So it's like,
everybody
That's
has that.
real. That
That's
is so real.
that's real. Well, we definitely applaud you. I'm not a parent yet, but
Me neither.
out there, we see.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So BPS gave some date on in-person learning. So the big,
Hmm.
as a parent, have you signed up for hybrid learning? Will you?
No, I haven't. I haven't signed up for it. I did think about it. I did think about it, like, would that be the best decision for her? And just because I think, and what I would say is that not every family has a different, every family situation is different.
Mhm.
Therefore, that some parents they need it, especially depending on the kids' need and their educational level. They might need that in-person learning a little bit more than others. So I felt like that's when you would go hybrid. But for me, since even though I am working as well, but I felt like I can help her
Okay.
as well if she needed that extra help. And since she'll be in the same classroom, being in like all day, it just felt like, oh, I just felt like she might as well do it here. To be
Yeah.
honest, I'm just like, she has to be on the computer doing all this. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, why are we doing this? She might as well just be here,
Yeah.
and feel comfortable
Yeah.
instead of like with the mask all day. Just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think it's important that you touch base. You said at the beginning that every family is different. Um, you making that decision based on how.
yeah, based on how our family is like,
Mhm.
because I'm fortunate to
Yeah.
be able to help her.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough that I understand the work and stuff like that,
Mhm.
where other families they don't get it and they might need extra help. And
Yeah.
so every family's dynamic is different. So for me, that's what works for us. I just thought, I'm here, I can help.
Yeah. Definitely. Um, Thank you for that. Well, thank you for joining us and offering us your perspective. Um,
Thank you for having me. That was really good. It was fun.
We definitely have to have you back on,
Yes,
like,
I love to
your
talk more about
business
different
and,
things.
yeah, about your business and how'd you get where you're at today. That'd be great.
no,
No, I love to. I'll definitely. I mean, it would be nice if we had more. I know, like for example, Build. It's great. Like they teach kids like about entrepreneurship and things like that.
yeah,
Mhm.
But definitely, especially now that they're home, I think it'll be great if we can like kind of have more of those type of like offer more of those type of activities or classes
Mhm.
for the kids, so to get them more interested and like stimulated, like
Yeah.
just like, oh, okay, like I'm learning about this, that's kind of cool, like I can actually practice at home, like I have all the time. I mean, we have more time now.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again. Keep up the good work, you guys.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dana.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. That was our three perspective on surviving the pandemic. We had a student, we had a social worker, we had a parent. Thank you for tuning in. I am Rudy Looters.
Jamari Jones.
All right, see you next time.
All right. Thank you, guys.